step out into the street and there's a truck bearing down on you, about to run you over. At that point, do you think about what your options are? Probably not, right? You make a snap decision, you jump out of the way. Think what would happen if we didn't have the ability to make snap decisions. Most of us in here wouldn't be alive, right? Well, that's the subject of this book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink. I picked it up in the airport, because that's where I usually am, in airports. And I read the book in 2 days. And I don't read books in 2 days. I'm a 3-weeker, okay? And this book here engaged me so much, and he would prove his points by, guess what? Telling stories. That was the whole book, telling stories, and I couldn't put it down for 2 days. And of course, I'm fascinated by psychology stuff, how the brain works. I don't know how my brain works. So I get this kind of stuff, and I go, I want to learn more. Now, his premise is, I want to prove to you that these snap decisions that we can make in our life can be just as good, just as right, as those decisions we take a lot of time to make. And he says we have these 2 minds. And this one mind is like this big, huge computer. And all it's doing is processing everything in your life. It processes the people you meet, the books you read, the movies you see, and it's constantly going on in the background. You don't even know it. And then you have this other mind, which is the conscious mind, where you actually go, okay, these are the good things about that, these are the bad things, and then you make a decision. So one of the stories he tells, there's this lieutenant, he's a fireman, and he responds to a fire in Cleveland. It's a 1-story residence. And him and his guys go in, and it's a kitchen fire. So they throw out the hose, and they call it charging the line, and they douse the fire in the kitchen. Well, it doesn't go out. They back up, they douse it again, it doesn't go out. Lieutenant says, everybody out now! They all rush out, and the floor collapses immediately. So they go, Lieutenant, how did you know? He's like, well, I guess it was ESP. And the researchers said, well, we're not going to take that, okay? And what they did is they tried to deconstruct what it was that he felt to make that snap decision. So after hours of asking questions, Lieutenant, what did you see? What did you see when you're in there? He said, well, I noticed that, the fire didn't respond it was supposed to. When you douse a kitchen fire, it should just go out, and it didn't. So, ding, just went off. Well, what else did you notice? He says, when I'm in fires, I pull my flaps up so I can feel the heat, and it was a lot hotter than it should be. Oh. Now, another thing experts notice is things that are not there. Was there anything that you noticed that was not there? He says, the fire was incredibly quiet. So in an instant, he made a snap judgment. He didn't sit there and create a committee and start checking boxes off. He got the hell out of the building and saved his life and his fellow fireman's life. So think about that. You have a hunch. You meet somebody and go, there's something about that guy that just unnerves me. Maybe you need to take that more into account. Or maybe you have some deal you're working on. You say, I don't know what it is about buying this house, but I don't feel right about it. Maybe you should listen to that. Now, another thing he works into is professional athletes. A lot of times professional athletes can't tell you why they do what they do. They can show you, but they can't tell you. Now, there was a very famous tennis coach called Vic Brady. And what he did is he coached tennis athletes for about 50 years. So now he's in his 70s and he's retired and he's watching these tennis matches. Well, he happens to notice that he can predict with 100% accuracy double faults. But he doesn't know why. He has 50 years of experience in his brain. It kept him up at night. He said, what was it? Was it the angle of the ball? Was it a turn of their wrist? He did not know. Because sometimes that subconscious at night is so locked away that you can't break through to it. It allows you to see these things that you can't deconstruct. So just very amazing. There's a couple of things in the book that scared me. And one of them was the subliminal stuff. Remember years ago when they had the big hoopla about get refreshments, get something to eat, the movies, remember that deal? And I'm like, come on, that doesn't work. Well, now I'm rethinking that. Okay, so this is the study they did. They took these college students and they had them do word scrambles. And some of the students, and also you had a list of words and you make a sentence out of it. So some of the students got sentences that had embedded in it rude words. and they were different enough where they didn't know, because once you catch on, it doesn't work. And then other students had polite words embedded into the sentences. So after they were done, 30 minutes, so they could go down the hallway and go into the next study. Well, down there were two researchers that were planted, and they were engaged in a conversation blocking the door. So the student could not get through the door. The ones that had read the rude words, and these are all New Yorkers, by the way. Both of them. So when they went to the door, 5 minutes or less, they interrupted and they went in. Okay, that seems okay. So I said, so the researcher said, now what you need to do is at a certain point you need to cut off the polite people. And they thought, okay, they're New Yorkers. Maybe it'll be 5 minutes and 2 seconds, okay? Probably not a big deal. 82% of the people that read the polite words never interrupted. They never interrupted, okay? They had to stop the experiment. They didn't know how long they would stand there. Okay? I mean, is that crazy? Can you think about all the associations that can go along with that? It's called priming. And we do it all the time. You can prime yourself before you go on a test to feel smarter. They can unprime you so you feel less smart when you go to take a test. That scares me. That scares me. Another thing was strong mental associations. 60% of all CEOs are over 6 feet tall. My CEO is 6'2". Okay, so board of directors think height, leadership. That's crap. Okay? There's no statistics that say because you're taller, you're a better leader. There's nothing out there. But somewhere in our genetic code, we say, tall, look, he's a leader. They can be dumb as mud, okay? And they're a leader. They're leading companies. Only 14% of the U.S. population is over 6 feet tall. Average man in this country is 5'9". Okay, so if you're over 6 feet tall, you're blessed. So there you go. It makes no sense. We have these strong associations. So think about this. Now this is a small puzzle. And if you know it, don't blurt it out, okay? Strong mental associations. This is the story. This is the puzzle. Father and a son are involved in a horrible car accident, okay? The dad is killed. They're rushing the son to the hospital. He goes in the emergency room. Immediately, the doctor greets him and goes, "Oh my gosh, it's my son!" Who is that? It's the mom. Most people get so hooked in to think that men or doctors, they never see that the doctor could be a woman. So these strong associations get so linked into us that we can't break them out. So think about that. There are situations where people go, well, I made the decision and it was solely based, nothing about male or female or race. And it goes, well, how do you know? How do you really know? It's so embedded in you, you don't really know. And this is not about prejudice. This is not about any of that. It just sometimes it's so deep in, we suddenly make these decisions and we don't even realize that they've been brought through a whole life. So the book was scary and it was fun and I recommend it. It's called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell and maybe you'll enjoy it as much as I did. This is Madam Toastmaster.